The wolf's bane incense clawed at the back of my throat, acrid and unforgiving. 300 pairs of eyes watched me kneel on the frost-covered stones, waiting, always waiting for my shame. For years I had knelt in this same spot. For years I had felt the elder's weathered hand pass over my head without pausing, without blessing. For years of the same whispered verdict echoing through the circle, broken, cursed, worthless. The crescent moon blessing. A sacred ceremony where fertile omegas received the mark of the goddess, where the pack celebrated new life and the continuation of our bloodline. For everyone else, it was a night of joy and promise. For me, it was a public execution that left no body behind. Around me, younger she-wolves knelt in pristine white ceremonial gowns, their faces radiant with anticipation. Some were barely 18, attending their first blessing. I watched the elder move down the line with practiced precision, dipping his fingers in the silver ash, marking each forehead with the ancient symbol of fertility. The recipients trembled with pride as the pack erupted in celebratory howls. When he reached me, his steps slowed. My knees ached against the frozen stone. I kept my eyes down, fixed on the intricate carvings beneath me, spirals and moon phases worn smooth by centuries of blessed wolves. I had memorized every curve, every chip in the stone. They were more familiar to me than my own reflection. The elder's shadow fell across my bowed head. His hand hovered above me. The entire pack held its breath. For one traitorous heartbeat, hope fluttered in my chest. Perhaps this year the goddess had finally heard my prayers. Perhaps the healers had been wrong. Perhaps. His hand moved on to the she-wolf beside me. The pack's collective exhale sounded like relief, as though they had all feared I might somehow contaminate the ritual itself. Someone in the crowd whispered, still broken. Another voice responded, the goddess knows her own. I focused on breathing. In through my nose, out through my mouth. Count to 4. Don't let them see you break. Not here. Not again. The ceremony continued around me, a river of blessing and belonging that flowed past me like I was nothing more than a stone in its path. I had learned not to look up during these moments. Eye contact only invited pity from the kind-hearted or disgust from those who believed barrenness was contagious, a moral failing that marked the weak. But then something changed. A scent cut through the ceremonial smoke, pine and steel, ice and ancient earth, wrapped in an authority so absolute it made my wolf whimper and press close against my ribs. Power radiated from that scent, the kind that made the air itself feel heavier, charged. I knew that scent. Every wolf in the realm knew that scent. Alpha King Thorn Ironhowl. My head snapped up before I could stop myself. Breaking protocol. Breaking the careful invisibility I had cultivated for 4 years. He stood at the edge of the sacred circle, half hidden in the shadows cast by the ceremonial torches. Massive, golden-haired, draped in the white fur of his station, silver wolf's head clasps glinting at his shoulders. He should have been at the capital, ruling over the assembled packs, not at a minor territory blessing for the Ironhowl Dominion's lowest-ranking members. But he was here. And those amber eyes, ancient, knowing, fierce, were fixed directly on me. Not on the blessed Omegas in their white gowns. Not on the elders conducting the ceremony. Not on the pack leaders who stood straighter in his presence, desperate for his notice. On me. The broken one. The barren healer who knelt in shame while others celebrated. Something in his gaze made my breath catch. It wasn't pity. It wasn't disgust. It was recognition. As though he saw something in me that no one else could see. As though the label they had carved into my identity meant nothing to him. The elder's voice droned on, blessing the final Omegas, but I couldn't look away from the Alpha King. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the impossible reality that he was here, watching me, and the intensity in his eyes promised that everything I thought I knew about myself was about to change. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, we have an absolutely incredible werewolf romance that will take you on an emotional roller coaster from despair to triumph. This is the story of Nissa Rowan, a woman branded as barren and broken, who discovers she's destined for something far greater than anyone could have imagined. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our amazing stories. And if you're already part of our pack, welcome back. Now, let's dive into this epic tale of prophecy, romance, and redemption. Chapter 1. I fled to the healing springs the moment the ceremony ended, before anyone could offer their hollow condolences or, worse, their silence. The hot springs lay at the northern edge of Pack territory, where steam rose through the pine trees like wandering spirits, and the only sounds were water trickling over stone and wind through branches. I needed to breathe. To exist without eyes on me, without judgment seeping into my skin. The water scalded as I sank into it, but I welcomed the burn. Physical pain was simpler than the kind that had no cure. I closed my eyes and let the mineral-rich water work its ancient magic on muscles tensed from kneeling too long on frozen stone. Running away or running toward? My eyes snapped open. Through the curtain of steam, a figure emerged, massive, golden-haired, moving with the fluid grace of a predator who had never known fear. Alpha King Thorn-Ire Hal stood at the edge of the springs, still wearing the ceremonial furs, though he had removed the heavy outer cloak. In the moonlight filtering through the mist, he looked like something from the old stories, terrifying and beautiful in equal measure. I should have bowed, should have averted my eyes. Instead, I stared, frozen like prey beneath a wolf's gaze. Running away, I finally managed, my voice rough. Definitely away. He stepped closer, and the air itself seemed to shift, charged with his presence. From what? A ceremony that means nothing. It means everything to them. I gestured vaguely toward the pack grounds. To everyone. And to you. Those amber eyes pinned me in place. Do you believe what they say about you, Nissa Rowan? Hearing my name in his voice sent a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with the cold air. How do you? I make it my business to know those who interest me. He crouched at the water's edge, close enough that I could see the ancient scars crossing his forearms, the silver threading through his golden hair. You didn't answer my question. Does it matter what I believe? Bitterness crept into my tone. The healers tested me. The goddess passed over me. For years of others telling you who you are. His voice cut through my defenses like a blade through silk. Why do you accept their judgment so readily? The question struck something deep and raw. Because what choice do I have? Fight against every elder, every healer, every wolf who looks at me and sees nothing. I look at you and see something entirely different. My breath caught. The intensity in his gaze made my skin flush hotter than the spring water. Some treasures are hidden, not absent. He stood, towering over me, his shadow falling across the steaming water. Remember that, little healer. Not everything that appears broken actually is. Then he was gone, disappearing into the mist like he had never been there at all, leaving only his scent and those haunting words echoing in my mind. Chapter 2. 3 days after the springs, I was gathering dried herbs in the healer's hall when the screaming started. I dropped the bundle of sage and ran toward the council chambers. Wolves scattered as I pushed through, following the scent of fear and something else, something bitter and wrong that made my healer's instincts scream in alarm. High Council member Alaric Greystone writhed on the floor, foam flecking his lips, his skin turning the mottled gray of death. The pack's head healer knelt beside him, hands hovering uselessly as she whispered prayers to the goddess. Moon's bane, I said, dropping to my knees beside the convulsing councilman. The scent was unmistakable, sharp, metallic, like copper and rotting flowers. He's been poisoned. There's no cure, the head healer gasped. Moon's bane kills within minutes. There is a cure. I was already moving, my hands checking his pulse, tilting his head to keep his airway clear. I have it. In my cottage. Someone run northwest edge blue door, clay jar marked with 3 moons. A younger healer sprinted from the room before I finished speaking. You cultivated Moon's bane antidote? The head healer's voice carried equal parts shock and accusation. That's forbidden knowledge. So is letting council members die when you have the means to save them. My voice came out harder than intended, but Alaric's breathing was growing shallow. I pressed my fingers to the pressure points along his neck, an old technique meant to slow the poison's spread. "Help me or get out of my way." She chose silence, which I took as permission. The young healer returned, breathless, thrusting the jar into my hands. I unstoppered it, the sharp scent of silverroot and crushed nightshade filling the air. Carefully, I tipped the thick liquid between Alaric's lips, massaging his throat to help him swallow. "Please," I whispered, watching his gray face. "Please work." Seconds stretched into eternity. Then color began returning to his cheeks, the convulsions easing. His breathing steadied, deepened. Around me, the gathered wolves released a collective breath. I sat back on my heels, hands trembling with aftermath. Impressive. That voice. Pine and steel and authority. Thorn Irehal stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching me with those unreadable amber eyes. How long had he been there? The pack members bowed immediately. I managed to climb to my feet, though my legs felt unsteady. "Walk with me, healer." It wasn't a request. He led me outside, away from curious ears, to the moonlit garden behind the council hall. From his pocket, he produced a stone that seemed to capture the moonlight itself, luminous, pulsing with inner radiance, colors shifting from silver to blue to violet. "You saved a council member's life with forbidden knowledge," he said, placing the moonstone in my palm. It was warm, alive somehow. "You are far more than they see." The stone thrummed against my skin like a heartbeat. "Keep it close to your heart, Nissa." His fingers closed mine around it. "And trust what it shows you." Chapter 3. I slept with the moonstone pressed against my chest, tucked beneath my nightgown where it rested directly over my heart. Its warmth seeped into my skin, pulsing in rhythm with my own heartbeat until I couldn't tell where the stone ended and I began. The dreams came the moment I closed my eyes. I was running through a forest bathed in silver light, but when I looked up, 2 moons hung in the sky, one full and luminous, the other a crescent of pure starlight. My paws, not feet, paws struck the earth in perfect rhythm. I was wolf, wild and free, running alongside others whose fur gleamed like molten silver. We were beautiful. We were powerful. We were daughter of the celestial line. The voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere, ancient and feminine, carrying the weight of centuries. "Sleeping child, it is time to wake." I tried to speak, to ask what that meant, but only a howl emerged from my throat, haunting, achingly lonely, and somehow right. "They told you that you were broken, but they only feared what they could not understand. The blood of the stars runs through you, hidden until the time was right. Until he found you." Silver light exploded around me, so bright I couldn't see, couldn't breathe, could only feel the power rushing through my veins like liquid moonlight. I woke gasping, my nightgown soaked with sweat. Dawn light filtered through my window, but something was wrong. Everything looked sharper, clearer. I could hear conversations from cottages 3 doors down. Could smell bread baking in the communal ovens, the metallic tang of the blacksmith's forge, the morning dew on pine needles. My senses had never been this acute. Not even close. I stumbled to the small mirror above my washing basin and froze. A mark gleamed over my heart, visible even through the thin fabric of my nightgown, silver and intricate, like starlight had been etched into my skin. The pattern spiraled outward in celestial curves, pulsing faintly with each heartbeat. I pulled the neckline down. The mark was undeniable, permanent, beautiful, and terrifying. The moonstone sat on my bedside table, now dark and dormant, as though it had given everything it had to give. A knock shattered the morning quiet, hard, official, commanding. I threw on a robe and opened the door to find 2 warriors in royal livery, the Alpha King's crest emblazoned on their chests. Commander Kale Irefong stood at the front, his scarred face impassive. His nostrils flared the moment he saw me. His eyes widened fractionally, the only sign of surprise from a man trained to show nothing. "You're sent," he said slowly, his voice carrying a note of wonder. "It's changed." You smell like, he stopped himself, jaw tightening. The Alpha King requests your presence. Immediately. Pack your belongings, healer. You're coming to the capital. Can you believe what just happened? Nissa's entire world is transforming right before our eyes. If you're loving this story as much as I am, please take a second to smash that like button. It really helps us bring you more incredible content like this. And here's a question for you. What do you think the celestial mark means? Drop your theories in the comments below. I love reading your thoughts and predictions. Now, let's get back to the story because things are about to get even more intense. Chapter 4. The Irehal Dominion Council convened within the hour, summoned by the presence of the royal guard. I stood in the center of the great hall, still wearing yesterday's dress, the mark over my heart hidden beneath layers of fabric, but burning like a brand. Pack leader Garen Irehal, a distant, disinterested cousin of the Alpha King, looked at me with barely concealed disgust. This is absurd. You're summoning our Baron Healer to the capital? For what purpose? Commander Kale produced a sealed scroll bearing 2 wax seals, one the Alpha King's wolf, the other the crescent moon of High Alpha Cedric Vale himself. The purpose is not yours to question. The king has requested Nissa Rowan's presence. The High Alpha has sanctioned it. She leaves today. She's worthless, spat Councilwoman Thera, her face twisted with disdain. A drain on our resources, a wolf who cannot fulfill the most basic function of her designation. What could the king possibly want with damaged goods? The words struck like physical blows, but I kept my chin up, refusing to flinch. The king's business is his own. Kale's voice dropped to a dangerous register. And I suggest you reconsider speaking of his interests in such terms. The implication hung heavy in the air. The council members exchanged uncertain glances. This is highly irregular, Garen blustered, but the fight had gone out of his voice. No one defied a direct order from the Alpha King. Very well. Take her. We won't miss her. As the council began to disperse, a gnarled hand caught my elbow. Elder Mora, the pack's oldest wolf, pulled me aside with surprising strength. Her milky eyes fixed on me with an intensity that belied her fragile appearance. I knew your grandmother, she whispered, her voice like dried leaves rustling. Before the purge. Before they tried to erase what you are. My heart hammered. What are you talking about? The prophecy. Her fingers dug into my arm. Kept secret for 3 centuries, passed down through the eldest, sworn to silence. But you need to know, child. You need to understand what's coming. She leaned close, her breath smelling of age and secrets. When the broken one burns silver, the realm shall be reborn. Daughter of stars and shadow, bearing twin lights in darkness, she will rise when the true king calls her home. Her eyes glistened with tears. They called you Baron to protect you, child. To hide you until the prophecy's time came. Your grandmother made them swear it. I don't understand. You will. She released me, stepping back. The king knows what you are. Why do you think he came? Commander Kale called my name. Elder Mora melted back into the shadows, leaving me with more questions than answers and a prophecy that echoed in my bones. Chapter 5. The journey to Thornhaven took 7 days through terrain that shifted from dense forest to rolling hills to the jagged mountains that cradled the royal city. I rode beside Commander Kale, surrounded by 6 elite guards who treated me with a deference that felt entirely undeserved. Why hasn't the king taken a mate? I asked on the 3rd day, unable to bear the silence any longer. He must have had countless offers. Kale's scarred face remained impassive, but something flickered in his eyes. Hundreds. Highborn Omegas from every major pack, daughters of Alphas, even visiting royalty from the coastal territories. He paused. He refused them all. Why? He said he was waiting. Kale's gaze slid to me, assessing. For something real. Something that couldn't be forced or fabricated. The king is particular about authenticity. I thought about Thorn's words at the springs. Some treasures are hidden, not absent. Had he been talking about more than just my supposed barrenness? By the 5th day, something was wrong with me. The hunger came first, a ravenous, insatiable need that no amount of food could satisfy. I ate twice my normal portions at every meal, and still my stomach growled. The guards exchanged glances, but said nothing. Then the heat. A warmth that radiated from my core, spreading through my limbs until I felt feverish despite the mountain cold. I removed my cloak, then my outer layers, until I rode in just my tunic while the guards wore heavy furs. My senses sharpened further. I could track a rabbit's heartbeat from 50 paces. Could smell water sources hours before we reached them. Could hear whispered conversations between guards at the rear of our column. On the 6th night, I woke gasping, my body burning, the mark over my heart glowing through my nightdress like a trapped star. Kale stood watch outside my tent, and I knew from the tension in his shoulders that he'd seen the light. "Commander," I called softly. He entered, keeping a respectful distance. His eyes found the glowing mark, and his expression shifted, wonder, recognition, something almost like reverence. "You know what's happening to me," I said. Not a question. "I have suspicions." He crouched beside my bedroll. "How long since you've been with the king?" Heat flooded my cheeks. "I haven't. We've barely spoken." "The Springs," he said quietly. "You were alone with him." "Even briefly?" "Yes, but my breath caught as understanding crashed over me." "That's not possible." "We didn't." "I would know if." Kale's knowing glance said everything his silence didn't. "The king's bloodline is ancient, healer. And if you are what I think you are, what he clearly already knows." He stood. "We ride hard tomorrow. You need to reach Thornhaven. Soon." Chapter 6. Ironspire Palace rose from the mountainside like a predator's jaw, black stone towers piercing the sky, silver banners snapping in the wind, ancient and unforgiving. The seat of the Alpha King, where the strongest wolves in the realm came to bend the knee or challenge for dominance. I had never felt smaller. Commander Kale led me through gates that could have swallowed houses whole, past guards whose eyes tracked my every movement with predatory focus. Wolves filled the courtyards, nobles, warriors, servants, all radiating power that made my wolf cower. "The king is in council," Kale said as we entered the main hall. "You'll be prepared for tonight's ceremony." "What ceremony?" Panic crept into my voice. He didn't answer. Royal attendants appeared as if summoned by thought alone, surrounding me with practiced efficiency. Before I could protest, they swept me away from Kale, down corridors of polished stone and into a bathing chamber that smelled of moonflowers and something ancient. They stripped me without ceremony, gasping when they saw the mark over my heart. Whispers erupted in a language I didn't recognize. Reverent. Odd. The bath was more ritual than washing oils that smelled of starlight and midnight, hands scrubbing my skin until it glowed, fingers working through my hair with crushing gentleness. They dressed me in silks the color of moonbeams, fabric so fine it felt like wearing water. Silver thread traced celestial patterns along the bodice, echoing the mark on my chest. I stared at my reflection and didn't recognize the woman looking back. Well. A voice like poisoned honey cut through the attendants' ministrations. "So this is the king's latest fascination." Lady Seraphine Nightshade stood in the doorway, breathtaking in crimson silk, her dark hair cascading over bare shoulders. An Omega of the highest breeding, daughter of the Northern Alliance's most powerful alpha. Everything I wasn't. The attendants bowed and scattered. Seraphine circled me like a wolf assessing prey. "You're the Barren healer from that pathetic border territory. The broken one." Her laugh was sharp as glass. "Did you really think you could replace me? Thorn has been mine for years. Everyone knows I'll be his queen." "I didn't ask to be here," I said, lifting my chin despite the fear crawling up my spine. "No, but you came anyway. Let me be clear, little pretender." She leaned close, her breath hot against my ear. "Tonight, the king will present you to the assembled packs. They will demand proof of what you claim to be. And when you fail, because you will fail, pretenders burn. I'll personally light the pyre." She swept from the room, leaving the scent of roses and threat. The attendants returned, their faces grave. One placed a silver circlet in my hair, another fastened a cloak of starlight fabric across my shoulders. "The ceremony begins at moonrise," the eldest said softly. "The king will either validate or destroy you before every alpha in the realm." Chapter 7. The ancient amphitheater carved into the mountain's heart held thousands, and every seat was filled. Alphas from across the realm, their most powerful wolves, nobles draped in furs and silver, all gathered beneath the rising blood moon, crimson and swollen, hanging in the sky like an omen. I stood at the center of the stone circle, exposed under torchlight and moonlight and the weight of countless stares. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought it might shatter. Thorn emerged from the shadows, magnificent in black and silver, the crown of twisted iron and moonstone resting on his golden hair. He moved with lethal grace to stand beside me, his presence both terrifying and the only solid thing in a world spinning out of control. "I have summoned you here to witness the recognition of my true mate." His voice carried across the amphitheater, commanding absolute silence. "Nissa Rowan of the Ironhall Dominion. A celestial Omega, last of an ancient bloodline thought extinct." The silence shattered. Outrage erupted from every direction, roars of disbelief, howls of protest, voices demanding proof, calling me imposter, fraud, pretender. High Alpha Cedric Vale rose from his seat, his weathered face grave. "This is an extraordinary claim, my king. The celestial line died 300 years ago. You cannot expect us to accept." "I expect nothing," Thorn cut him off, his eyes never leaving mine. "I declare the truth. The proof will reveal itself." "Then let there be proof." Lady Seraphine stood, her voice ringing clear. "I call for trial by Moon's judgment. Let the goddess herself decide if this creature is worthy of the Alpha King." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Trial by Moon's judgment was ancient, brutal. A suspected false mate would be placed in the sacred circle during the blood moon's zenith. If the bond was false, lunar magic would reject them violently, burning, breaking, destroying the pretender where they stood. "You would risk her life on ceremony?" Thorn's voice dropped to a dangerous growl. "If she is truly your mate, she has nothing to fear." Seraphine's smile was vicious. "Unless you doubt your own claim, my king?" The trap was perfect. Refuse, and he appeared uncertain. Accept, and I could die screaming in the next hour. Thorn turned to me, his amber eyes searching mine. Not asking permission, offering me choice. One word from me and he would refuse, damn the consequences, protect me over politics. But I thought of Elder Mora's prophecy. The mark burning over my heart. The impossible warmth growing in my core. "I accept," I whispered. Thorn's hand found mine, his grip fierce. "Then we proceed. But know this," he addressed the assembled packs, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "If the moon rejects her, I will accept no other mate. Ever." The crowd fell silent. High Alpha Cedric nodded slowly. "So witnessed. Let the trial begin at zenith. This is it. The moment of truth. Will Nissa survive the trial by Moon's judgment, or will everything come crashing down? Before we find out, I need your help. If you're on the edge of your seat right now, please hit that like button and share this video with your friends who love werewolf romance. Trust me, they'll thank you later. Comment below, Team Nissa or Team Seraphine? Who do you think deserves to be queen? Let's debate in the comments. Now, let's witness the most epic reveal in werewolf history. Chapter 8. The blood moon climbed toward zenith, turning the sky the color of old blood. I walked to the center of the trial circle alone, each step measured, final. The ancient stones beneath my feet had witnessed this ritual for millennia, had seen pretenders burn, had drunk the blood of those who lied about sacred bonds. Thorn stood at the circle's edge, every muscle tensed, ready to intervene despite the laws that bound him. His faith in me was absolute, terrifying. I wished I shared it. The moon's light intensified, focusing on the circle like a spotlight from the heavens. Heat built beneath my skin, not painful yet, but building, growing, spreading from the mark over my heart outward through my veins. This was it. Validation or death. the heat became fire. Silver flames erupted across my skin, crawling up my arms, spiraling down my legs, consuming me in celestial fire. I heard screams, couldn't tell if they were mine or the crowd's. The flames didn't burn, but they transformed, revealing something that had been hidden beneath flesh and shame and years of being told I was broken. Ancient markings appeared on my skin, glowing like starlight trapped in mortal form. They spiraled across my arms, my shoulders, down my sides in patterns that matched the constellations themselves. The mark over my heart blazed brightest, pulsing with power that felt older than the mountains, older than the packs, old as the first wolves who ran beneath the first moon. The crowd fell silent, transfixed. Then came the sound. 2 heartbeats, perfectly synchronized, echoing through the amphitheater with preternatural clarity. Not my heartbeat, though mine raced wildly. These came from within me, small and fierce and undeniable. My hand moved to my stomach without conscious thought. Twins, someone whispered. The word rippled through the crowd like wildfire. She carries twins. The impossible made manifest. I wasn't barren. Had never been barren. The warmth I'd felt, the hunger, the changing scent, all of it made terrible, beautiful sense. The silver flames intensified, and my wolf surged forward, not the weak, cowering creature I'd always known, but something magnificent. Ancient. Powerful. My eyes must have changed because Thorn's expression shifted to awe, and wolves throughout the amphitheater dropped to their knees. High Alpha Cedric's voice rang out, shaking with emotion. The celestial Omega lives. The prophecy is fulfilled. Lady Seraphine stood frozen, her face ashen with shock and fury. The flames receded slowly, leaving me standing in the center of the circle, marked with starlight, carrying the Alpha King's heirs. The proof carved into my very existence. Thorn crossed the circle in 3 strides, gathering me against his chest as my legs gave out. His scent wrapped around me pine and steel and home. I told you, he murmured against my hair. Some treasures are hidden, not absent. Chapter 9. Thorn's private chambers occupied the highest tower of Ironspire Palace, where floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the realm spread beneath us like a living map. He dismissed the guards, the attendants, everyone, until only silence and moonlight remained. I stood by the window, still trembling from the revelation, from the twin heartbeats that had echoed my truth to thousands of witnesses. My hand rested on my stomach, protective, awed. The full prophecy, Thorn said quietly, moving to stand beside me, speaks of a celestial Omega returning when the realm fractures. When packs war among themselves and bloodlines weaken. When we need unity most. He paused. Your children, are destined to bridge the divides. To carry power from the old world into the new. Destiny. The word tasted bitter. So this was always inevitable? Written in stars and prophecy. The prophecy spoke of possibility, not certainty. He turned me to face him, his hands gentle on my shoulders. And I refuse to claim you through fate alone, Nissa. You deserve more than that. I searched his face, confused. I'm giving you a choice. His thumb traced the mark over my heart through the silk. Leave. Take my protection, my resources, everything you need to raise our children in safety and peace. I'll ensure no one ever harms you, that you want for nothing. You can live free of politics, of danger, of the weight of being queen. Or stay. Be my mate by choice, not prophecy. My queen because you choose it, knowing full well the dangers, the enemies who will target you, the nobles who resent your rise, the constant threat that comes with power. His voice roughened. I won't lie to you. This life is brutal. But I swear I will stand beside you through all of it. For years of being told I was worthless. For years of shame carved into my identity. And here stood the most powerful wolf in the realm, offering me not just acceptance but choice. True choice. You saw me, I whispered. At the springs, at the ceremony, even before the mark appeared. You saw something in me when everyone else saw nothing. I saw everything. His hand cupped my face. Your strength. Your skill. The way you refused to break despite years of cruelty. You were never broken, Nissa. You were waiting. And so was I. The truth settled into my bones, solid and right. I wasn't choosing him because prophecy demanded it or because I carried his children. I was choosing him because he had seen me, truly seen me, when I couldn't even see myself. I choose to stay, I said, my voice steady. Not because of destiny or duty. Because this is where I belong. With you. With our children. With a mate who knows my worth. Thorn's smile was devastating. Then welcome home, my queen. He kissed me as the blood moon set and dawn broke over the realm, and for the first time in my life, I felt exactly what I was always meant to be, extraordinary. The dawn crept over Ironspire slowly, washing the stone towers in pale gold and softening the sharp edges of a world that had once only known judgment. Somewhere below, the realm stirred. Wolves woke to a future reshaped by truth, by courage, by a woman who had survived being called broken and dared to stand anyway. Stories like this are not just about destiny or power. They're about being seen after years of silence. About shame unraveling into strength. About choosing yourself when the world has already decided who you are supposed to be. If this story stayed with you, if Nissa's journey stirred something in your chest, take a moment to like this video. It helps these stories find others who may need them. We'd love to hear from you too. Comment below with the moment that moved you most, or tell us which part of her journey resonated with you. Your voice matters here. And if you know someone who loves powerful werewolf romance, redemption arcs, and stories where the overlooked rise into their truth, share this story with them. To hear more tales of fate challenged, bonds chosen, and wolves who refuse to remain unseen, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. Until then, may you remember this. Some things are not absent. They are only hidden, waiting to be revealed. We'll see you in the next story.